We are going to move on to Chapter 3, entitled Economic Activity in a Changing World. Lesson 3.1 is about the U.S. economic history. So our objectives for this are to describe the 4 types of economy that the United States has experienced and describe what is shown by GDP, unemployment rate, rate of inflation, and national debt. So first we're going to revisit some of the terms. Gross domestic product, commonly known as GDP, standard of living, inflation, deflation, budget deficit, national debt, and budget surplus. All right, the changing United States economy. In the early 1600s, colonists bartered goods and services. So it was very much a service-based economy. And then we moved into the 1700s, and as we were expanding away from the colonies, away from, Plymouth Rock and Massachusetts, farming became a common way of life, and so agricultural-based economy was predominant. Then in the mid-1850s, the Industrial Revolution started happening, and happened first in Europe and England, and then came over to the United States. And this started enabling big machines for producing goods and more factory work. So this was an industry-based economy. And then in the 1900s, especially from the 1950s on, a rapid movement of information happens. And so you have the invention of the computer, and then eventually the personal computer for home use, and then the advent of the internet. So this becomes an information-based economy. So those are the 4 economies known for U.S. history: service-based, agricultural-based, industry-based, and information-based. When we're measuring economic activity, we often rely on economic indicators. And economic indicators are statistics that help us measure our economic performance. So again, gross domestic product, GDP is probably one of the biggest that you will see listed. Standard of living, unemployment rate, rate of inflation, and national debt are the economic indicators most commonly used. So the gross domestic product, again, this is known as the GDP, and this measures how many goods and services a country produces. One of the most important indicators of the status of the economy is the GDP. How much are you producing goods and service-wise in your country? So in order to calculate the GDP, you compute the sum of goods and services sold to businesses, consumers, the government, and other countries. So GDP is not necessarily going to be what you're exporting to other countries, but it's also any product that is being purchased by something or someone. And then, of course, in comparison to other countries, the United States does have a very high GDP compared to the other countries. Standard of living. Standard of living is the level of material comfort as measured by the goods and services that are available. Material comfort, of course, being your needs are being met, and now you're getting into quality of life and comfort. So more goods and services produced per person, the higher the standard of living, because you're going to have more money to be able to buy the things you want to make your life more comfortable beyond just your means. Beyond just your needs. The United States has a high standard of living because we are known for having a productive workforce. In our free enterprise system, wealth created by businesses benefit the community because businesses pay taxes and help provide jobs. Now, again, some political scientists might disagree with how much the taxes are really helping the United States are helping the economy, because there are a lot of write-offs when you have a tax, but they do provide jobs, and so that is good for us as far as our standard of living. Unemployment rate. Unemployment rate measures the number of people who are able to work and willing to work but can't find work. And this is usually measured over a specific period of time, either monthly, quarterly, or annually. A lot of times the monthly rate will come out on the news and make big news if so many jobs were being reintroduced into the workforce. Changes in the rate will indicate if an economy is picking up or slowing down. So obviously if more jobs are available, that means production is high, and so the economy is starting to pick up. And if less jobs are available because production has slowed down, they don't need the workers anymore, then unemployment rate would increase, and that would be an indication that the economy is slowing down. Rate of inflation. Inflation, the word, is a general increase in the price of goods and services. One's buying power decreases because it costs more to buy the things that you need every day. Causes. What could cause inflation? Well, after a war, resources have been transferred to the war effort, so now they're no longer available, and so the cost of acquiring those resources increases. Increases in the cost of the raw materials, expenses, and salaries increases. And if the government allows too much money to circulate in the economy, the money no longer has the same value that it was, so then it costs more money to equal what it was once before. Now the opposite is deflation. And deflation might, on the surface, appear to be something positive, but it actually, a significant amount of deflation is not good for the economy. Deflation occurs when the supply of goods and services is greater than the demand. So that means you have excess goods and services than you do for demand. So then sellers are having to cut prices and cut production, which then leads to having less people employed, which means less people have money to buy the goods and services. So then demand starts to go down more, and it can kind of ripple from there. So deflation is not a positive thing. As much as we complain about the cost of things increasing, that generally, as long as it's not getting out of hand, 1 to 2 to 3% per year is pretty average for the cost of living. If inflation is higher, then you have to start being concerned about why are things starting to cost so much. National debt. This is always a big ticket, especially in the United States when it comes to concern about the solvency of the government. The main source of income for a government, of course, is its taxes. Taxes on citizens, taxes on businesses, and so forth. So those taxes pay for defense, pay for education, and pay for Social Security. Now, a budget deficit means that the government is spending more on these programs and other programs than it is collecting in taxes. And so if it's having to spend more, that means it's borrowing that money from other sources, whether it's banks or other countries. And then, of course, it's having to pay interest on that money as well as paying back the money. So then the government, again, when we're borrowing money, that's creating national debt. In the United States, I think we're in debt trillions of dollars. I don't know an exact figure, and I can look it up for you later. Now, a budget surplus is if we're taking in more taxes, more revenue, then we're spending. And so what's good about that is that excess, that surplus, can go towards paying down our national debt. And that's it for section 3.1. I'll stop the recording now so that we can pick up with 3.2.